Hey guys, welcome to the MangaMark channel. Today I am ranking the One Piece backstories. Now, if you are new to the channel, this is the first ever video you've clicked on, then currently I am watching through One Piece on the channel and we just finished Thriller Bark. And right now, before I start the next arc, I am watching the filler in my own time. I won't be doing videos for the filler. But while I'm doing that, I usually release a couple of videos like these, like tier lists and things like that, just to be putting stuff on the channel while I get through the filler and we come back with the reaction videos. So this one, I thought, I want to give my, because we just got obviously Brooke's backstory there at the end of Thriller Bark, and it was amazing. And I wanted to look back on all the ones I've seen and just kind of like rank them and see, right, where do I think, like from worst to best, who do I think has like the best backstory in One Piece? Now, like I said, I have just watched Thriller Bark. So I know that you guys that are up to date or are watching further ahead might not be caught up, but I know that you've probably seen so much more backstories by now, and there'll be loads more in the, like, this One Piece. There's always going to be backstories, probably sad ones, right? But this is where I am, guys, and so what I've did is I've just took the 10 major ones, right? I know there's other little ones here and there that I've seen so far, but I'm just going to rank the major, like the top 10, the 10, so it's like the 9 crew, the 9 members of the crew, and the Noland and Calgary flashback from Skypiea. Because I feel like that was like a major flashback, and it was like that flashback for that big arc. Whereas like we've had like, I'm not going to put like Rob Lucci's in here. I didn't want to put that in. It'd probably be at the bottom anyway. It was interesting to see his, but like, and like with Vivi, yeah, you got some of Vivi's flashback, but it was like, it was spread so much over like a couple of arcs where you got to see like young Vivi when she met Wapple, young Vivi when she was her and Koza, young Vivi when it was her with Pell, but it was like none of that was together. They were all spread all over the place, so I didn't think, I couldn't put Vivi on it. And then obviously a couple of little ones here and there, a couple of little villain origin stories, but not really. Not really I would class as like flashbacks or backstories. Whereas these, I think it's fair to go with these ones. So that's my thought process on it, guys. Obviously, in the future, when I'm further down the line in the series and I've seen more backstories and more flashbacks, hopefully, I can do this again and see how my thoughts change. But let's just get into it. Let's just get into it, and I'll go through the list, and then I'll give my my thought process as to why I'm putting them there, or like how my thoughts have changed, like from maybe ones that were in the East Blue compared to the more recent ones. So yeah, so we'll start off, right? Let's get into it, and I think that at number 10, it can only be one person, unfortunately, and that's Usopp. And it pains me. It pains me to put him there. But the sad reality is that his backstory wasn't great. Not that, well, that's a bit harsh. Like his backstory, it was very much, it was like that. It was very much like, it was sad. I'm not going to say it wasn't sad, because like, not as sad as the rest of them, but still, his mum died. His mum, when he was very young, his mum died. His dad abandoned him, basically, to go and be a pirate. Well, before his mum died, but you know what I mean. But it was literally like, you know, like bang, here a short little scene, and then that's the reason why he is the way that he is, and now right back to the present. So I can't justify putting anybody else number 10 below Usopp. That's just the way it is. I think Usopp's strength is the character development he's had in current time in the series. I think more than anybody in the crew, Usopp's grown tremendously. So you don't have to, you know, the backstory doesn't make the man. He is ever changing and ever growing, and I love Usopp. He's shot right up there, as you guys know, as one of my favourite characters. In the last couple of arcs, it's been insane watching Usopp go there. Now, this one, this one hurts me. This one hurts me because you guys know, if you have been watching the channel for a while, you know that I love this man. But Zoro's number 9, just after Usopp, and the reasoning for it is because I feel like Zoro's, even though it was sad, and we got Kuina and that stuff there, how he got his sword, like the scene with him crying and begging like his master, like Kuina's dad, for her sword, that gets you, right? That hits you. But it's very, like, it's very quick, especially in the manga. Like, because obviously a couple of these flashbacks I have read in the manga as well as watched in the anime because like the reviews I was doing. But a couple I've just seen in the more later ones I've just seen in the anime. But like reading Zoro's one, I was shocked at like how quickly that one went by as well. Like the anime kind of stretched it out more. But yeah, I cannot, guys, you know how much I love this man. Zoro is my favourite character, you know, especially after what just happened in Filler Bark. My goodness. My goodness. But yeah, I cannot put anybody on this list below him in terms of backstory. That would be insane. And that's just the way it goes with these bottom two, because I feel like it's sad because these two are like up there amongst. In fact, you know what? The next one as well, the one that's going to be number 8, is basically at this point they're basically my 3 favourite characters. There or thereabouts. And I feel like they've got the weakest backstory. So let's just get on with this, because I'll speak more in depth with the ones that are near the top, because these bottom ones are more like there's not much to say about them. And number 8's Luffy, which again pains me, but when I spoke about this in the review when I did like the Romance Dawn thing. I'm so upset that they didn't use that chapter, like the opening chapter, as the first episode of the anime, because it's so damn good, right? It's the setup of the series. It's done perfectly. Shanks, you know, everything there, giving the hat to Luffy, and then Luffy setting off. It comes back to present time with Luffy setting off on his own, on his journey. Perfect, right? It is perfect. But I think that when you look at everything else that's on this list, they fit better into the story or the arcs that they're involved in. Like Luffy's was the setup. And it was brilliant. But you knew nothing about these characters at that point. You knew nothing about Luffy. And it did a good job of kind of like indicating what kind of person he is, and making you very interested in Shanks. But the rest of these ones that are coming up here, they were like flashbacks that were involved in an arc, like much bigger arcs compared to these 3 bottom ones. Because no anything but One Piece, it just gets better and better as we progress, and the arcs get higher stakes, and the arcs get bigger, and like the world building just adds to everything. So I think I can't. Again, like I said with the other two, like Luffy's, who could I put him above on this list? I know people will have different opinions on the order of this list, and guys, let me know. Like you guys, let me know your opinions. But please, again, be mindful of the fact that spoilers, if you can, because I am obviously not up to date. I am just past Filler Bark, but yeah, like that's got to be there. And I think that there's certain what this is the point for me. Like in my mind, I knew that these three were the bottom three. These three were the bottom three because they're the first three, and I thought to myself, right, at the time, they were great, and they told me they were very quick and very like, this is what you need to know. This is what you need to know about these characters. Let's go. The story's on. Whereas the rest of them after this point, I would say that Sanji was the first one that was like, right, let's get a bit more in depth with it here. Let's give you like let's get into it. Let's first start the arc. Let's start the arc, and obviously Usopp did this a bit as well, but Usopp's was so quick that you didn't get to appreciate it. But with Sanji's and Baratier, they built up the arc, they built up the kind of like mystery around it, and like Zeph and him, and you ask the questions of like the people on the Baratier would talk about why Sanji gets away with so much, and like they built up to the perfect time to show you that flashback, and it fit in perfect. And then when you come back from the flashback, your image of these characters changed for the ending of the arc, and I think that the rest of these do that perfect. Like, it's just Oda has mastered these, like when to go into these backstories at the perfect time to give you the context you need, and then go with finish the arc or progress with the arc. So these three, again, Luffy's, in terms of importance for the series, one of the highest up there. But in terms of like the quality of the actual backstory and the arc that it was in, or like built, like helping the arc that it was in, I can't put him higher than that, right? I'm hoping that down the line we get more of Luffy. I would like to see more of Luffy's past, because I feel like with the reveals that we've had about his family, because we've met Garp and we've met Ace, and we've met Dragon as well, but like we don't know much about Dragon. But I really hope that at some point I get actual like Luffy when he was young with his family, because you saw it when he was talking with Ace. Well, they spoke about when they were young, and he spoke about it with Garp as well, because Garp was talking about how he trained Luffy, and the rest of the crew were horrified by it. So I'm hoping that at some point we get more of Luffy flashback. But this was just a setup kind of thing. But I loved like the interaction with him and Shanks. Amazing. This is where it gets tough, and this one I didn't think was going to be this low, but when I'm looking at it compared to the rest of them, oh god, I know who my next two are going to be, but I don't know what order to put them in. Oh, in fact, maybe this. Oh god, this. I should have thought this through harder before I jumped in here. This is tough as I'm looking at these now. I had a general idea of where I was going to put them, but now it's sinking in where I'm like, oh, do I want to put that one that high? Do I want to put this person above that person? It's tough. It is tough. But I'm going to go with at number 7, Frankie. This one's hard, because I really liked Frankie's flashback, and I felt like Frankie's flashback was like one of the ones I was talking about, where it totally changes your perception of a character. And it wasn't the flashback fully that did that, because as we were going through Water 7 and we were getting the sea train stuff and that, oh no, wait a minute, that's not right, because we got this before the sea train. So strike that. This flashback was before they got on the sea train, wasn't it? Because it was when, yes, I'm talking rubbish. It was when CP9 showed up, when he was with Usopp in the workshop. Right, okay. So Sorry, but from that, and that's what I'm thinking about. So from that interactions that he was having with Usopp, and he was talking to Usopp, and like that was because Frankie was built up as a villain kind of character, and the mystery behind him, and we didn't know much about him. But then through that interaction with Usopp and through seeing him after he took his mask off, you kind of got the impression maybe this guy isn't. I don't think this guy's a bad guy. Like I don't think he's the. Obviously, it was revealed at that point who the villains were. It was CP9, but like you were warming up to the idea. I was like, oh, Frankie might be likable. Like I might like this guy, and then coming out with that flashback was when you went, right, okay, right. We're with Frankie. We're with Frankie all the way. Tom, an amazing character. An amazing character. And having, like, the connection to Goldie Roger with Tom, everything about that was great. And I think the problem that I have when I was thinking of these is that I feel like Frankie's flashback might be getting overshadowed by another flashback that's coming up that happened, like, maybe not the same, it's hard to call it the same arc, but you know what I mean. Like, in his lobby, the flashback there, I think that just looms over it. So you think, when you think of that big sequence, that's the flashback I think of. But Frankie's was really good as well. I loved seeing the relationship between him and Iceberg, and how it tied into the way they are, like, in present day. It was good, but also the reference of him trying to stop the sea train with his bare hands, and then you realising that that's why Yokozuna's been doing it. I liked that. That was a great reveal. But yeah, it was the flashback was there. It devastated you again because of what happened with Tom. But that flashback's purpose there for me was to be like, right, here you go. Your perception's going to change, and now when you come out of this flashback, you're going to want this man to join the crew. That's where your head should be at, right? Because it does a great job of it, of being like, this is who you thought this guy was? No, wrong. This is who he was. This is why he is the way that he is. This is you know, the reason behind the kind of like secrecy, and the reason that I liked that it tied into the fact that Iceberg was kind of like, he knew something was up, and he knew that the government were not on to them, but he knew what the government wanted. So it was very much like to Frankie, just, you need to take these and get out of here. We don't know each other, kind of thing. But the emotions of Iceberg, like finding out he was alive at the same time, he couldn't hold it back. Even though he was still kind of resentful of what happened with Tom, he kind of blamed Frankie for it. But I liked that, and I liked that the resolution that when Frankie was going to join the crew, of Iceberg saying that to him, to be like, you know, I've forgiven you a long time ago, so you need to forgive yourself. And you can tell, like, that was the thing from that flashback when it came back, that Frankie had never forgiven himself for what happened with Tom. And that's the beauty of a good backstory. It's what drives the character forward. It's what makes them who they are. And you can tell that Tom was the man that Frankie aspired to be. And it was Tom's actions and Tom's lessons that drive Frankie going forward. So yeah, that was great flashback. I think I'm going to change this again here. No, you know what? I'm sticking with my guns. People are right. Okay, let me just put this one first before. Number 6 is Sanji. Yeah, I'm going with Sanji, number 6. This was the first kind of backstory in One Piece that hit me. That really hit me, where I was like, oh wow, okay, this was amazing. Like, Baratie, for me, was the first arc that kind of showcased what One Piece was going to become. Like, it was the first kind of glimpse of like, oh wow, because I was really enjoying it up to that point, I was like, this is great. It's a great series. Really loving it. And, you know, shonen, you get that shonen vibe and you're like, this is great. I'm really enjoying this. But Baratie was the first arc where I went, oh, wow, there's real greatness here. The storytelling, like the world building, like it's that. I know I've heard people talking about a certain point. Like people say to me, there's a certain point in One Piece that, people say get to, when you're trying to sell somebody on One Piece and it's be like, oh, you need to get to this point to appreciate it. I didn't feel that because I really enjoyed it from the first couple of arcs. The setup really got me, so I had that hook. But if it was me and I was sick, because people say that Along Park is like the be all end all arc in East Blue, I think Baratie can go toe to toe with it in terms of like the first arc that is if you've got the hindsight of the arcs that are to come, Baratie for me is like the template for, like the bigger arcs when we get to the Grand Line, if that makes sense. If I'm making sense with what I'm saying. So I would say Baratie for me, one of the best arcs, one of the best early arcs. And this flashback was so well placed and hit me a lot harder than I was expecting. And the purpose of a lot of these crew flashbacks is to make you, like, to get you on board with the character, basically. If that is one of the driving forces, to be like, here's this character's backstory, here's their motivations, here's their, here's why they are the way they are in current time. And I think a lot of it is supposed to make you, like, sympathise with the struggles they've been through. And with this one with Sanji, it made me kind of look at Sanji and go, oh, he has to join the crew. That was an amazing backstory, and more so, it totally changes the way you look at Zeph. Because Zeph is, like, in that flashback, my God, and you can see the bond, you can see the kind of, like, he is the kind of father figure for Sanji going, and seeing those two start the restaurant together, and then it gives you the context of all the chefs that have came and joined and were asking the questions like, why does the owner let Sanji away with so much and things like that. They two have been through so much together. And I wish, obviously the big moment is when Zeph gives Sanji all the food and, eats his own leg. And I know that it was changed for the anime. I really wish that it wasn't, but I understand it. If there was, I know people talk about the changes and are upset by them. That's one that I can understand why they did it. At the end of the day, I don't think they could get away with, showing Zeph chop his leg off with a rock to eat it. I can understand why they went the direction they went with, to have him, like, take it off and not show it on screen with the anchor or something like that. But I just love the fact that he went through that, and all for the reason that Sanji had the same dream as him, but they all blew. And he heard that and gave up his life as a pirate, basically, to save this boy. And, and this is what I'm talking about with the earlier ones, with the bottom three, where I'm like, the other ones, like, tie in perfectly with the arcs that they're in. This is what I'm saying, like, that flashback, it hits you hard there, and then it comes back around when you remember that flashback, when you see the ending of the arc, when Sanji is saying his goodbyes to Zeph and to everybody there, and he's crying, and Zeph starts crying. You think of that flashback, and you kind of go, oh man, right, okay, it's so well done. It's amazing. And I don't, if early early One Piece, out of all these kind of beginning ones, I think that the jump was so high compared to like Luffy, Zoro, and Usopp. Sanji's just took it to another level for me, and that was like the first one where I might be looking like, because I've got above Frankie, so I might be looking at Sanji's with kind of like rose tinted glasses, because it was like the first flashback that kind of made me go, whoa, okay. And then that for me was the one that I judged the others off of going forward, because it was so good. But yeah, and this one here might surprise you. Number 5 might surprise you guys. But I love this flashback, and it is Nolan and Calgary. I love this flashback. I love this flashback, and this for me is what I was saying there with Sanji, with the way it tied into the arc. This flashback for me made Skypiea. It made Skypiea, and even like Jaya. Like seeing this and the way it tied into this story and brought it all full circle, and seeing the emotions on like the people, and like obviously Cricket being the descendant of Nolan, and obviously Wiper being the, you know, like the descendant kind of Calgary, like he inherited his will kind of thing. That I can't explain how good this flashback was. It was just, it totally caught me off guard how much this one resonated with me. Not even like, I mean, look at, I've put it above most of the crew. That I thought it was so good. I thought that these characters were great, and this is what's so Oda's so good at. Like, these two characters existed only in this flashback. You know what I mean? This was like, their story was done in 2 episodes, but it was exactly what it needed to be. It was it gave you the full story in those 2 episodes. Was it 2 episodes? It might have been more than 2 episodes. No, I think it was. I think it was just 2 episodes. They did it, and they were like, right, okay, here it is. Here's the story of them, and then when it comes back to current time, and then it made so much sense for like seeing what happened in the flashback, and then it cuts back and all the reveals of why things were the way they were on Skypiea, what happened to like why the map of Jaya was the way that it was after it got shot up into the sky. You know, half of the house that Cricket had in Jaya, like obviously being when it got blew up, and what's the snake's name? Was it Nola the snake? And obviously because of the stuff that happened at the sacrificial altar, like just watching this bond being formed by these two guys from completely different backgrounds, watching them build this very amazing friendship, and then that being the basis of this arc, and it tied into obviously Skypiea and the people in Skypiea, the Golden Bell. It just, everything came full circle, and it raised the stakes for me, because after, like, I thought Skypiea was like a fun adventure. It was like a fun adventure where we're up in the sky, we're having a great time, and then after this flashback, I was like, we need to find this Golden Bell. We need to find this Golden Bell, and we need to fulfill these guys' wishes. These 2 guys that, you know, like died tragically, but that the moment for me after it as well, when Wiper realizes that the Straw Hats are there to ring the bell because they're doing it for Nolan's descendant. The tears start streaming down his face, and he's looking at the statue of Calgary. Oh man, guys, it's so good. It's so good, and I know this. I think this is going to be the one that people are going to disagree with me. I feel like people are not going to be happy that I put this one this high, but I can't help it. It hit me hard. It hit me hard, and I loved it. And it was everything I want from a flashback. You know, and if we get more of these, I'll be very happy. I want more of these flashbacks where we get an arc. like, obviously it's going to have to be an arc where we don't have a new crew member. If we get a new crew member, I obviously expect the flashback to be about them, or the backstory to be about them. But if we get an arc where the flashback will be able to describe what's happening in the arc, or the history, or like things like that, give it to me. Like, if they're going to be like this, I'm all for it. I am all for it. Right, and number 4, I'm going to give it to Nami. Nami number 4. Now, this this one was, it was so unexpected, and it just, you talk about like a perception change of a character. Like, at that point, like, building up to it with the stuff that happened at the end of Baratie and the stuff that was happening in Arlong Park, you really were asking like, I knew when I was watching, I was like, right, something has to explain this, why Nami's behaving the way she's behaving, and why she's doing the things she's doing. What's happening on this island with these fishmen? Like, I need an explanation as to what's going on here. And wow, like, this flashback was so sad. It was like Sanji's was sad, right? Sanji's was sad, but this one was devastating. Belmere, oh, you guys know how much I love Belmere. What a character. What a character to only exist in a flashback. And when she, obviously, what happened with her, and then young Nami after that, and what she was kind of pushed into, like, hearing that, it made you want to put your fist through the wall. You know, when you saw all that stuff, you're like, oh man. And that was the first instance of a flashback that made you, like, so hyped and gung-ho for a villain to get beaten. Because it involved Arlong. And you saw what happened with that, with what he did to Nami and her village and to Belmere. And my God, like, and it led into one of the best moments in the series. The walk to Arlong Park. Like, this is the thing, like, they talk about the live action. This is the scene. Like, that flashback of Nami's going into the scene of her stabbing the tattoo, and then Luffy putting the hat on her head and walking to Arlong Park. That's the scene that I mostly want to see done in live action, and I hope so much they do it justice, because I got chills. And I know that the walk to Arlong Park isn't part of the backstory, but for me, like, coming out of that backstory, I think that's what helps that scene so much, because you come out of that backstory and it gets you so riled up. You get so riled up seeing what happened to Nami, and it explains so much, like, why she is the way she is, why she, you know, like, why she's stealing from, why she hates pirates, and why she's stealing from them at the same time. And, like, oh my God, it's a masterpiece of an arc. It's a masterpiece of a backstory to, you know, and the placement of it was perfect. The placement of this backstory is perfect, because, like I said, it leads into that moment and the kind of end stretch of the arc, which is just all guns blazing. But the build up to it is the suspense and, like, the crew coming together, and you getting bits and pieces of the fishmen and the village and the way that, you know, she's treated. And I love the way that they did the reveal of the villagers knowing what she was doing the whole time. Like, they knew what had happened. Like, they knew the story. But they pretended to hate her and go along with it just because of what the sacrifices she was making for them. Really damn good, guys. But it's amazing. And I think that the problem is that these 3 that are above it came and just... I cannot, like, Nami's is amazing, and it's the best in the East Blue. It's the flashback that kind of defined the East Blue for me. But these 3 that are above it, just, like, I feel like they just took it to the next level, and it's a testament to how much the arcs in the Grand Line just stepped it up. It was like, Along Park was that like epic conclusion to be like, right, this is us, we've got our navigator, we've got all our crew now we're going to the Grand Line. And these top three, now, I knew going into it, I know what my number one is, right? I'm guessing a lot of you probably do as well. But with these two here, I was debating what position to put them in. And with number three, I'm going with Chopper. Chopper number three. Now, you guys, if you guys have been with the channel for a while, you know that I absolutely love Dr. Hiroluk. I love Dr. Hiroluk. I think he's one of the best kind of backstory characters. In fact, he's the best. He's the best backstory character. Let's just be clear. I thought he was amazing. I thought that his story and obviously the stuff with Chopper, it was great. And it just, it breaks you. There's so many points during that backstory that it's just, I don't think the music gets enough credit as well. The music and drum with the flash, especially with the backstory, my God, they're really trying to make you cry, right? And that flashback, again, with the payoff at the end of Drum, with Dr. Reen having finished the research, and with Cherry Blossoms, and you hear Dr. Hiroluk's voice, with Chopper crying his eyes out. Oh man, it's amazing, right? But this backstory was probably one of the most unexpected for me, because Chopper is, like, when he's introduced, you're like, right, okay, you know, he's a talking reindeer, right? And you don't expect, well, even with, you know, one of the ones that still to go as well, but with Chopper, like, you don't expect a talking reindeer to get this much depth to him and backstory, and just, it's amazing. And like the way it was done to build this character and show his motivations and basically the way he was raised. You basically watched how he was raised by these two characters in his life, and it's so damn good. And the sacrifice, the speech, and then like Hiroluk's death. My God, I cannot describe to you how much I loved that scene. It devastated me, but I loved it. And it's a case of this backstory at one point was just number one. It was number one, and for me, I was just like, right, I might not, like, the reason, this backstory is the reason that I have Drum so high in my expectations. Sorry, in my estimation, sorry. Because when I, like, ranking the arcs and stuff, this backstory is what drags Drum, like, up near the top. Not the top tier, like, where, like Enies Lobby, Water 7, you know, Alabasta arcs are. But it's up there because of this backstory and these characters. So damn good. Wapple drags it down. Wapple hurts it. And probably one of the worst villains that we've seen in the series. And it's a testament to how good this backstory is, that when I think of Drum, I'm just like, I block him from my memory. And because the only thing that I can't disassociate with it, and why, is because Wapple's in the flashback as well. You know, but at the same time, he is meant to, like, he plays the role in the flashback of being a despicable character, and he is, like, perfect for that. I just wish he was a bit more serious, if you know what I mean. I wish he was a bit more of a serious character. But it fit perfectly. Watching, and when Hiroluk goes to try and say, he gets tricked to go and save the doctors, but he knows he's dying, and he gives his speech before he dies, and watching Dalton start crying and realising, like, oh my god, like this guy's, he's the guy. This guy's the guy right here. And then Dalton like gets the motivation then to be like, nah, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. Not doing this. And because of Heroic's words, he basically saves Chopper. He saves Chopper and sends him away to like kind of live another day and then get back at them in the future. It's amazing, guys. Amazing. I could talk about this flashback in depth for ages, but I'm not going to. Like, you know how much I love it. It's just top tier. Now, here we go. Number 2. And this one surprises me, right? This one really surprises me because it just happened. It's Brooke. Brooke shot right into number 2. This was an amazing backstory. It was so well done. It was done over a couple of episodes, and it went from the first one being like, right, this is Brooke when him and the Rumbar Pirates, when they met Laboon, and then it shows you the bond that they form and what kind of pirates they were, just like showing you like these were great people, and this is how they got attached to this whale. And then at the end of the first episode, it was kind of like them being like, right, we're here at the Grand Line now. This is just going to get more and more dangerous. We cannot take this whale with us. And them leaving Laboon there, it's like the end of the episode. You get a little bit to say like 3 years later, and it shows you the crew's been wiped out, right? Now, the second episode in this backstory is why it's so high on this list. My God, that scene is one of the best scenes I've seen in the series. It was so well done, with Brooke taking out the recording of his dying crew and playing it in present day, and then the scene was jumping as he was singing the Binks Sake, or was it the Binks Sake or Binks Brew? I know there's different translations of it. When they're singing that, and it's jumping between like Brooke in present day with the Straw Hats and like Lola's crew singing away, it's jumping back to show you Brooke when he was by himself on the ship for all those years, singing by himself, going a bit crazy, and then the heartbreaking moment of the crew, this crew that has been poisoned. They've been poisoned, they know they're about to die, they're linking arms together with big smiles on their faces and singing a song, knowing that Brooke's going to come back and be able to give this song to Laboon. I'm getting choked up talking about it, right? It was so good. They're dropping to the ground one by one. Brooke's crying on the piano as they're going down. Amazing. And even like earlier in the flashback, like I was getting choked up when like Yorkie, Captain Yorkie, like got like, it was like the plague they called it, and they had to leave him, and Brooke became the captain going forward. Even that was getting to me like earlier in the episode, but that scene there was so good. And like just even the fact that this character came into it, Brooke came into it, and I'm like, this is a crazy talking skeleton, man, with an afro. Like this is insane. He's a musician. This is crazy. Like everything I learned about him, I'm like, this is like what's happening here. And I never expect, like I don't think in my mind I thought that he was, like when I first saw him, like the first scene, I would never have predicted that this person was going to join the crew. But then getting more of his backstory and finding out more about his personality, it became very clear that he was going to join the crew. And he is, I'm so excited to see him going forward and see what kind of character he's going to be like out in like the world with the Straw Hats, interacting with them. Because the flashback just made me love him. You instantly love this character, and the kind of person he is, the relationship he has with Laboon, and the Laboon connection, like the reveal of, I know this isn't the backstory, but the reveal of the Laboon connection blew my mind, right? So the fact that this backstory goes into it and be like, right, okay, let's show you it now. Let's show you him and Laboon and the crew in Laboon and then what happened there. The fact that this was tied back to that happened when we just got to the Grand Line is amazing. Oda is a genius, right? But the scene of like that scene where his crew's dying, it just it's crazy how highly I thought of this. Like my estimations of this backstory, you can tell how like genuine they are because I'm putting it this high compared to like Chopper and Nami, which are ones that I have built up in my head from earlier in the series. Like for me, like those two were like up there, like top three. I'm thinking like, right, these ones are going to be hard to beat. So the Brooks jumped in at number 2, like straight away. And like there's certain ones that I look back on now with more fondness, and like I've probably moved them up higher as time goes on. So I don't know how I'm going to feel about this, like going like when I get a bit further away from Filler Bark. But because I think it's because it's so fresh now, I'm just like, right, this is just genuinely one of my favourite backstories. And if the purpose of like a crewmate backstory for me, like I've said before, is to sell you on this character, to make you go, this person has to join the crew. And if you don't come out of that backstory feeling that way, then I don't think the backstory's done its job. And if you come out of Brooks' backstory and you didn't want this man to join the Straw Hats, then just stop watching. Just stop watching it, stop reading it, because my God, it was amazing. It was so damn good. And let's just get this out of the way. Number 1, was there much of a doubt? It's Nico Robin. It's Nico Robin, guys. I do not know if there is ever going to be a backstory that tops this one. I think it's going to be very hard. I think it's going to be very, very hard. I hope that there is. I hope that there is. Don't get me wrong. I'm not sitting here going, nothing will beat Robin. I probably do feel that way right now. But what I'm saying is, I hope something does beat it. Because I'm looking forward to if that is the case. If there is a backstory that's coming that can top this one, it's going to be amazing. Because this backstory is one of the best bits of storytelling I've ever seen in manga or anime. It was unbelievable. And this right here is what I'm talking about when we mentioned a couple of the other ones where I'm saying it fits perfectly in an arc, and it makes an arc just like better and expands like what, like the build up to Rob. Like this is why Robin's number 1, because Robin's backstory was being built from when she was first introduced. Robin joined the crew right after Alabasta, and you had questions about her all the way through Skypiea, and then the Davy Back fight, and then Water 7, and then things started kicking into play in Water 7. Well, even at the Davy Back fight with Aokiji, things started ramping up, and then we're like, right, okay, we really want to know what's happening now. And you got little bits and pieces of, wait a minute, she got a bounty when she was 8 years old. Like, what does that mean? And like, she was just very mysterious character. And you wanted to know, like, because she joined the crew with nothing. She just joined the crew. She just asked to join, and she joined. Right? Obviously, we got what happened with her and Luffy and Alabasta and stuff, but that was present time. But what I mean is, like, with every other character that joined before then, you got a bit of a backstory. You got a bit of a, here's this character's motivations, here's this character's past. With Robin, we didn't get that. So you're watching through Skypiea, and you're finding out more and more about her personality, and you can see her bonding more and more with the crew. And then when you eventually get to the point where you see her backstory, all of that just, it means so much more. Like when you look back on it, where you're like, oh my God, like think about what this girl's been through all her life. And then like watching her opening up and becoming friends with these people, and then the pain, like it makes you look back on all the arcs that she's been in and all the decisions she's made, and you go, oh man, it all makes so much sense now with what happened in Water 7 and her basically trying to sacrifice herself because she found something she thought she never would, and she found like a family. She found like these people that would protect her. But then I also love the fact that she was scared. And she said that. She was scared that these people would eventually do to her what everybody else done to her, which was like throw her away or like sell her out, you know. And she was terrified of that because she finally had got close to people. It's just, my God, it's masterfully done. It's one of the best, like I said, one of the best storytelling like flashbacks or backstories I've ever seen. And the reason that Robin's number one, like above Brooke, for, like the difference if I were to explain it, is the fact that Robin's backstory, like I was saying there, was built so well and fit so well, and then it came back, and that was the driving force of the arc, the end of the arc. And that moment when you come back out of the flashback, the backstory, and she does the "I want to live" moment again. Like it's like Robin's is like Nami's like times 10 for me. Like it's just like it's the perfect kind of right. They've took that, you know, as like a baseline, and then went right. Let's take that and just kind of ramp it to the max, and a much bigger arc with much bigger stakes. And then you go into that, and she says the line, and that's us. We're ready to go. We're ready to put our fist through the wall again, right? Amazing. But with Brooke's flashback, Brooke's backstory, Brooke's backstory had nothing to do with Thriller Bark. You know what I mean? It happened in Thriller Bark. You got in current time, they're in Thriller Bark. But what I mean by it is, like, the stuff with Laboon and then the crew and then the stuff in the Florian Triangle and things like that. Thriller Bark wasn't even a thing then. So all of that happened regardless. Like it was at the end of the arc. It was like the last bloody episode before we left. So it didn't come back into, it was great placement for what it was supposed to be. It was placement of here's Brooke's backstory, and now here's Brooke joining the crew, and we're away. I'm very happy about that. That was perfect. But with Robin's, my God, like the fact that it tied into all the stuff in Water 7. You had all the things from like Spandam and like obviously his dad being involved in the flashback, on O'Hara. All this like, oh man, Saul. I mean, come on. It's just, I feel like I don't even need to explain why this is number one. It's insane how far above everything else it is for me. It's crazy. Like Saul, Professor Clover, and watch it, like just, it was so sad watching him getting killed. You know, this when she runs past her mum, and then she starts crying and asking, "Are you my mum?" My God, it's so good, guys. Like Nico Robin is number one. I don't even feel like I need to justify it. It's just that's the way it is. So that's the list, guys. I'm guessing a lot of this you could have probably guessed. There might be a couple of ones in there where you're like, really, Mark? But, you know, that's, as I stand right now, this is where I view it. And like I said, guys, this is where I am in the series. So this will probably change. Once I've had a bunch more backstories, we'll go with it from then. But yeah, so this is it. And you guys let me know in the comments if you agree with this or not, or if you want to change it. You know, what would your top 10 be of this at this point in the series? And yeah, guys, thanks so much for watching the channel and sticking with me. And I will be back, obviously, with a couple of videos before we jump into the next arc, which I am very much looking forward to. So yeah, guys, thanks so much, and I will see you on the next one. Cheers, guys. Bye.